INEOS are about to do a whole reset. Is their 2 years and bust plan actually going to take effect? Maybe even this January. We're going to talk about the two players that they have on their list. Some of you may know them already. They're all over the news, but we're going to go into detail as the plan to maybe bring forward a signing in January because of these outgoings. More on that and who United are actually going for in January. Have we got a Mark Guehi replacement or alternative if we don't get that transfer done as well? The influence of the legends again. Rio Ferdinand has jumped in and had his say on Kobbie Mainoo. Is this bad or is this good for Manchester United that we have got the likes of Rio Ferdinand having his piece as well? We're going to get into that and get that talked about this morning. Also, JJ Gabriel, the record breaker last night for Manchester United's academy in the FA Youth Cup. We're going to get into that. Also, more positives coming from the academy side of things. Again, another great performance from Jimmy Thwaites. I did say go watch him last night. So we'll get some opinions from some of you in the chat. And if you did watch it, give me your opinions on Jimmy and JJ Gabriel, in particular from that FA Youth Cup game last night against Peterborough. Let's get this show started. Get in there, get involved, everybody. Get interactive with us here on Forever United TV. I'm Adam. Hello. Good morning. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. No midweek games for Manchester United this week, so quiet one in terms of the build-up to the games. Ruben Amorim's press conference for the Bournemouth game is on Friday, so we'll bring you that as we always do midday on Friday. But there is still plenty of talking points going around Manchester United now that we have got ourselves, let's just say, positioned nicely after 15 games, creeping up to the midway mark through the season. By the end or turn of the new year, in fact, it will be the halfway mark for Manchester United. Where will we be? Manchester United's plans on that for the transfer window seem to be taking full effect. Remember when Omar Barada, Manchester United's CEO, came out and said that, and this is a sort of philosophy he had when he was at Manchester City there and head of his department at Manchester City, when he was saying in an interview that players have to show progress, players have to show that they are improving after 2 years to get that contract renewal, to get that new deal in the bag. Otherwise, they'll look to be moved on. Plans are already in place. If you are not progressing after 2 years at the football club, plans are already being put in place because that's the halfway mark, near enough on every single contract, unless you're Chelsea. But that coming in two-year mark, then you're into the third, and then after that, you're usually having conversations about a new deal. So progress will be assessed. And I think a couple of Manchester United signings under INEOS that have failed to impress are definitely under the microscope. We know about Joshua Zirkzee. We talked about him last night. And Manchester United also ready to ditch Manuel Ugarte this January. That's a big one because that is an area of the pitch that Manchester United are lacking in. And the automatic concern for this, there's a few reports going around this morning that I've read through as well, and into late last night about Manuel Ugarte potentially funding Manchester United's hunt for Antoine Semenyo. Semenyo still on Manchester United's radar, and United haven't given up. Don't really want to go into too much detail on Semenyo at the moment because there is really not enough news out there. But the latest on him, just so everybody knows, is obviously favourite for Liverpool. And obviously with Mo Salah now looking like he is out of the door, Liverpool doing better without Mo Salah, it would seem, against Inter Milan last night. A more of a team-spirited performance rather than individual brilliance. It does look like end of days for Mo and maybe a gap obviously opening up for Semenyo. All roads lead to Anfield, if you ask me, at this point, after the Mo Salah debacle. But things can change. Manchester United are still looking and are in the market for the right player in January if it comes about. The opportunistic signing, as most of the journalists have been talking about. But Manuel Ugarte is definitely an interesting one. Obviously, we know about the reports with Galatasaray, the interest there. Can Manchester United recruit most of that 40+ million that we actually forked out for Ugarte to PSG? Lots of Manchester United fans bemoaning this transfer as to us funding PSG going getting João Neves a couple of seasons back. Remember that United were linked with him as well. They weren't ambitious enough in getting that deal done. This was INEOS' first pre-season and transfer window, remember. Kind of looked like things were all over the place at Manchester United at that point. And I think even Sir Jim Ratcliffe has alluded to that in separate interviews as well, where he said we were still learning, we were still bringing in certain people into board level, and the team wasn't completely ready. It was a bit scattergun. If you remember, Dan Ashworth was a big part of that transfer window as well. So you could lay the blame on him because he's not here, but we won't do that. It has to go under INEOS's blame, I think, this one, because they're the ones that went out and bought the 5 players we did in that window. And 2 of them already in key positions for Manchester United have really not been good enough. That being Xerxes and that being Manuel Ugarte. Whether or not Manchester United can move Ugarte on this January is to be seen, but I still don't know who Manchester United would bring in if that Manuel Ugarte transfer happens. Maybe you do look at the João Gomez, now that it is pretty much confirmed that Wolves will be going down. Maybe he does try and push away, because Wolves, like we've said before, don't actually and won't get a bigger transfer fee as they would in January, as they would in the summer, because they've been relegated. So maybe to look at that financially. No news on that. I'm not even going to bring up a story about that, but I'm just mentioning names as to why United would even contemplate moving Ugarte on. Whether you like him or not, United need that player there just to cover and rest Casemiro. That'll be Mainu's situation we're going to speak about in a moment as well, but the midfield area is a strange one for Manchester United because I just don't know who is going to come in. Now, Semenyo for Ugarte, does Mason Mount then drop back in to that midfield role, potentially, as an option? Ruben Amorim was talking about Mason Mount being a great player because he can defend, he can play through the middle, control games, he can attack. He's the all-out midfielder, really. But that would mean Bruno Fernandes' position as the 8, not the 6 again. I just don't know, because we had the story that we brought up yesterday about Jimmy Thwaites potentially coming through from Manchester United's academy as well. It's just a bit too much too soon. And where I understand that Manuel Ugarte is not going to survive at Manchester United, I think he's definitely gone. It's difficult to see how he ends up moving in January, I think. That's probably where we are in this one. But it is definitely going to be labelled as a mistake by INEOS, this transfer, because he just is not good enough. And all of the reports and everything from behind the scenes at Manchester United are all pretty much on the same par, which is that Ruben Amorim is really disappointed in Manuel Ugarte, and the fall off from him, from when he worked with him in Sporting, gone to PSG, obviously, then back to United. And obviously, Ruben Amorim did not sign Manuel Ugarte. This is where I look at some of the reports as well, when some of them have got it completely wrong, which shows you where some of the journalistic world is actually falling away, saying that Ruben Amorim actually signed Manuel Ugarte. Well, he didn't, did he? He came in that season, obviously, but Ten Hag and Manchester United's board bought Manuel Ugarte, so it was an INEOS Ten Hag signing. Remember that summer when we bought Yoro, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Xerxes, Ugarte? They all came in that summer. Mazraoui, De Ligt and Yoro, I think, are good investments for Manchester United, have proved their worth so far. But Ugarte and Xerxes are definitely the ones that have fallen off and have just not been good enough. Poor recruitment from Manchester United again there. And you could label the blame all on INEOS on this. Look, you can try and make an excuse to say, look, they'd only just got through the door, like Sir Jim Radcliffe has said, and there was no way that everything was going to be perfect in that transfer window. So, yep, they got it wrong. They failed in them transfers. They did, and you have to say that. So everything that I've said about good recruitment and the way United are moving forward, the structure, I've pretty much failed us in its first season there. So the excuses are there, but ignore them. Still Man United, you still got to get the job done. Christopher Vivel was in charge at that point as well. Wilcox was in situ, and we had enough there to make sure that we were buying the right types of players. We got it wrong with them too badly. So now what you say is, okay, before, these would have been your Jadon Sancho, Victor Lindelof types of signings, the ones that you just can't get rid of. The only good thing from this, and yes, it was a mistake, it's not really a good thing, but just to balance the argument out a little bit here, is this is where we're going to see how a football structure takes control. This is how it's going to change going forward for Manchester United, because we didn't overspend on these players, I don't think. The money that Man United bought these 2 players for definitely isn't of the same totals and amounts that we've paid on players and overpaid for players before. Their wages are definitely not, well, they're not extraordinary. They're not ridiculous. So other clubs can afford to buy these players in on similar contracts at least. There's not much of a drop-off there. So the structure worked in that way, and United protected themselves there. But just go back to what I said right at the start of this video, in that Manchester United's 2-year plan. This is it. This is where I start to really get into judgment on the INEOS structure and where it actually is. Because United now, with these two players, 2 years in, not worked. It either goes to what it was before, where they were just lingering in the background, earning a fortune. Well, they're not. It's not an absolute fortune compared to other transfers before, like I said, but still, they would have just lingered around, not doing anything. Both played enough to still stay relevant, but you've got to make that call after 2 years. If you don't, then they fall into that category of someone's just going to come and bid you in the balls and take these players for nothing, and you end up losing on the books. You haven't spent too much on the books. They're already both 2 years in, so you've paid a big majority of them transfers already. So that helps Manchester United in terms of the transfer out. And in a PSR side of things, if United do recoup enough money, then on the books, it's seen as a PSR profit. And going into the new rule changes into the summer, that's where Manchester United benefit the most. So getting these players out after 2 years, accepting your mistakes and dealing with it, rather than clinging on in hope that they might actually turn out to be the player you thought you were buying years before. Deal with it now, deal with the problem, get them out, take your loss on the actual transfer value that you bought them for, but make sure that you have done enough in the PSR side of things to balance the books. And I think both of Xerxes and Agate now are in that category. 2 years in, most of the payments done and down, and when sold, it will be seen as a small PSR profit for United. Massive, massive decisions need to be made at Manchester United on a lot of players when it comes to the 2 year side of things. Look, no one wants to sell Mazraoui, no one wants to sell De Ligt, no one wants to sell Yoro. But everybody wants Xerxes and Agate out of this team. They're not good enough to start. Potential, maybe, but we have not got time to allow potential to flourish in this team when we need to get back to the top. So the cutthroat nature of INEOS' tenure at Manchester United has to take effect this summer for this team to progress. That, I think, is crucial in everything that they do going forward, because if they don't, then we're not going to move forward. Not every transfer works. Every single club is the same. United have just allowed it to take over the last few years and really left us in the crap where we are now. I said it a minute ago there, your Victor Lindelof signings, your, Jadon Sancho type signings, Anthony type signings, allowed them to stay longer than what they should. So realistically now, it's a perfect opportunity for Manchester United to draw the curtain down on that and move forward again. Take what you can for these players, and both of their values would actually go towards getting a player in we actually need, i.e. that's Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, Carlos Baleba, whoever the midfielder is that United desperately need, or even someone in January, forward, whoever. Again, though, just to go back to what I said there again, there isn't really many options out there for Manchester United, it would seem, at the moment. And that's the biggest concern when it comes to the January transfer window. For us as fans, like, we want improvements and we want players to come in. But is there anyone out there that we can actually bring in right now? I don't actually think there is. And that's the thing. Conor Gallagher is one of them squad players, cheap enough, and he's definitely going to be useful. Does he help this season? I don't know where he plays yet. I don't know who he's going to come in and replace, because he's not going to dislodge Bruno or Casemiro. Good squad player, good investment for the future. Is that enough for January? Because January should be used, I feel, for players that are going to start. Now, you can debate that then. Gallagher and Gomez over Casemiro. Gallagher over Bruno. Not going to happen. I'd rather have Mason Mount drop there where Bruno is right now than go and spend money on a player that's going to be a squad player. Just don't know who he's going to come in. I think the outgoing side of things is going to be really interesting for Manchester United, because if someone is let go, then there has to be someone coming in. Because we've already seen, haven't we? And this is probably where United are at. It's like, we're not going to do anything until AFCON is over. We need to see how the players from AFCON come back, and then we'll make some transfer decisions in the outgoing side of things when that tournament ends. So the last 2 weeks, like we've said, of January is going to be when it gets really, really interesting for Manchester United. So that, I think, is the big situation developing at United right now. fans will be crying out for signings. INEOS have to maybe stand their ground and get the right types of players in that they want, or sign people they would have signed in the summer transfer window. It's really difficult to gauge where it's going to go. And I've seen it from every single article, journalist reports, and everything that's going on, is that Manchester United are just being very, very careful. And again, I've seen people quoting Ruben Amorim on this. We need to make sure we don't make the same mistakes. If there are bargain signings United could get in the likes of a Aiden Hetvan and Patrick Dorgu like last January, maybe then, yes. But I just don't see enough at the moment. Waiting for someone to jump out from the crowd and waiting to see if there is any alternatives there for United. I have done a poll this morning as well, just on the subject on INEOS and their first 2 summer transfer windows gone now. Who has been the biggest disappointment in terms of signings for INEOS so far? Xerxes, Agate, or Dorgu? They're the ones I've not... Like I said, I like Xerxes. I like Dorgu in terms of like the raw ability. They have got qualities, but are struggling. And I've only used the names in this poll for the reason being the United fans have always criticised these players. So just INEOS signings and trying to make a list of them has been a bit more difficult than previous years, because I don't think recruitment has been that bad from United. So who's been the biggest disappointments out of the signings? Xerxes, Agate, or Dorgu? Manuel Agate has got 85% of the vote right now. So that tells you there how bad a signing that was for Manchester United. And the warning signs were there before. So INEOS do have to take the L on that one and admit defeat, and a big defeat, I think, because where they did save in terms of how much they spent on him, the quality of player is the be-all and end-all for United. And if he doesn't fit and isn't good enough, then you are going to look at that as a fail. And that's where we're at with Manuel Agate right now. There's no way back for him. Absolutely no way back. And I think the decision's already been made. Sensible in terms of getting rid after 2 years. This is where United need to be. I think the bigger picture there, and what I tried to explain, was that don't allow these players to fester and linger around Manchester United if they haven't been good enough, because this is the problem that we've got now. Right, I'm going to scroll into the chat and just see what people are saying on this one. Mr. Dacia Sandaro says, "Hi, Adam. I had high hopes for Agate. I don't think it helps having Bruno in the midfield alongside him when does play. I think he would be much better in a free, but it's over for him now." Well, this again has to be then put down on Ruben Amorim and INEOS deciding to take Ruben Amorim in the middle of a season because they knew. Ruben Amorim explained, according to Sir Jim Radcliffe, the horse's mouth, by the way, that he had this plan, he had this philosophy, this idea. This is how football is going to be played. So the INEOS plan was scrapped and they went with Ruben. So they knew how he was going to play. They knew the players they had already brought in for a 4-2-3-1 for Erik ten Hag. So again, mistake in not getting rid of Ten Hag, mistake in the players they brought in for Erik ten Hag, and then really, was it a mistake in bringing Amorim in so quickly and getting him to completely destroy this team to a point where we knew exactly who he was going to work with and who he wasn't going to work with come this summer that's just gone? But there's a few things you could bring up there. Look, a decision needed to be made and United went out and got Amorim. And I was happy at the time. A lot of Man United fans were happy at the time that we went out and got someone and acted like a big club, got a manager in rather than an interim. So that being said, it was on INEOS to make them cutthroat decisions. They have to back their man. And if these players are not working, cut. Get them out. Take your loss. Recover what you can and go again. That's backing. Accepting that the players don't work, getting rid and moving forward. And moving forward the best way that you possibly can. That's backing for a manager, I think. Andrew says, "Adam, I think United's financial clout this summer could be insane. Champions League qualification is more important this year than last." Champions League qualification for Manchester United is the be-all and end-all when it comes to financial planning for the future, mate. And if we are in the Champions League next season, then Manchester United are really going to be going places when it comes to the potential transfers that we could make. Everything is open, everything's on the table, and we can afford at least 4 to 5 big signings if we make Champions League football. It's massive. That alongside the plans to cut so many other players out of the squad as well and lower the wage bill, of course. United paid 77 million for players. They'll take a huge loss getting rid of them. Well, look at it that way. If you put, I'm guessing you put in Xerxes and Manuel Ugarte's fees together there. Fair enough, 77. What can we recoup? Joshua Xerxes is 30 million of anybody's money. Manuel Ugarte is probably 25, 30 million of anybody's money as well. You're going to recover, I think, 55 to 60 million. That'll be Man United's plan. There is no loss on the PSR books for United. And that, again, is going back to my point that I just made. United, when they make signings, don't overpay on wages either. So transfer fee, wages, they're not gone over the top on them. This is the INEOS structure. It's been very good in terms of doing this. And obviously, we're 2 years into them payments now. Obviously, there's probably 4-year plans on both of these players when it comes to the instalment factor. So we're halfway through that. Cut them in half, and their value is what we paid for them and what we've paid off. And then you bring in transfer fees of 50 to 60 million for the pair. Profit, and then wages are also off the book, which is going to save Man United near 10 million a year in wages also on top of that. But that's what you've got to look at. And then, when you do look at everything that's in play there, you've got to look at the potential of what we could bring in with that money. Flyboy says, I don't even know why Xerxes has had a bad rap when he literally saved us last season when we were dying with Garnacho and Rasmus. You lot are some fans, aren't you? I mean, to be honest, mate, has he really done enough? He hasn't. You're clutching at straws a little bit there, mates. You really are, because I just don't see where Xerxes has. He's done it in spells, like a lot of players. He's not saved us. Again, the Rasmus Højlund transfer, 2 years in, fail. INEOS have cut. Anana, 2 years in, fail. INEOS have cut. It's the same again. They're just not good enough. So Ugarte and Xerxes are going to be the next 2-year and cut type of players. This is why they pay what they pay. This is why they structure what they structure. So they know after 2 years, they should be able to, worst case scenario, at least draw an even or make a tiny PSR profit on all of these signings. That's why they buy them young. That's why they make sure that they've got some form of value, and they don't waste money on players that are of a certain age that have got no future or long-term future at the football club. Everyone that they have bought so far has resale value. And I know we shouldn't always be looking at that and the future and making money on players. We should be looking at what's going to fit for United, which is why the recruitment has to be spot on. Financially and quality-wise, it's massive for Manchester United now. United should have bought Berger instead of Ugarte. Big mistake. Remember when that was going on, Gear, actually, when Sander Berger went to Fulham from Burnley. He's definitely having a great season for Fulham, and 2 second season in as well. He's a mainstay for Marco Silva. So, yeah, you could argue that point. But again, I just think Manchester United, with everything that was going on with INEOS in that first summer, if we were, for instance, 2 years in, 3 years in, like we're coming up to this summer transfer window now, a player like Ugarte would be nowhere near Manchester United's radar. Not anywhere near it, I don't think. Ugarte, for me, Xerxes and Dorgu were cheap and worth the risk. See, that's the thing with Dorgu. We can moan about Dorgu not being a great player. We can moan about Dorgu not hitting it, but let's not forget, we did spend less than, well, it was about 20 million for Patrick Dorgu, wasn't it? Obviously not including the add-ons on that either, because I don't think he will meet the add-ons from what Romano said. So, again, that there is a 20-year-old player who has got resale value, and United are not going to be struggling in moving Dorgu on if they wanted to. But then again, you've got a young player that's not costing you a lot, that's not on hardly anything when it comes to wages, that is a good squad player for United. Does Dorgu fit into Man United's starting lineup at the moment? It's debatable. Is he a good squad player to bring on? Yeah. We should be having players like Dorgu that could come on off the bench. We need a better starting 11. And the wide area in his position is one that United will hopefully go out and spend money on this summer. That is going to be, I think, a big push for Manchester United anyway. Getting the starting 11 bang on point, I think, is key. And then we've actually got some all right squad players. So if you don't sell Dorgu, if you don't sell Dalot, you've got all right squad players there. That's where they should be in Manchester United setup, not starting 11 players. So that's where we've got to change. These players are actually looking at Manchester United and saying, I should be starting. This is where I said before the inmates are running the asylum. The agents were getting in, like this player needs to be starting, that player needs to be starting. They were having too much power. And that has been cut out now, it would seem. And players are going to have to accept that they're going to play bit parts. Onto the bit part thing, and actually talking about what Rio Ferdinand said about Kobbie Mainoo. He went in on his own podcast, Rio Ferdinand, and actually said he listened to the Kobbie Mainoo situation being discussed by Scholesy and Butty on their podcast. And he said, I am with them. If I am in Kobbie Mainoo's position right now, I'm leaving Manchester United. This is where the influence of big players and former Manchester United players, so-called legends and pundits, has a negative effect on Manchester United, because we all seen the back and forth with Lenny Yoro and Rio Ferdinand, didn't we? When he first signed, obviously Lenny Yoro is best mates with Kobbie Mainoo, and he isn't obviously kicking up a stink, Lenny, or anything like that, or being a problem for Manchester United because Kobbie Mainoo is out. I think there is an understanding from these players, a professional side of things, that, yeah, if your mates are going to be left out, it's who do you want to be in that team more? Like, are you going to mopes around because your friend's not getting in and then hamper your chances of getting into the squad, or are you going to get on with it? You're going to get on with it, aren't you? And Lenny Yoro is doing that. But the influence of Rio Ferdinand is quite big with I feel the younger players at Manchester United as well. And obviously he gets into Manchester United, gets interviews with TNT as well and around the football club. I think United have to be careful here with who they actually allow in and what actually happens here, because Rio Ferdinand on his own podcast has just told Kobbie Mainoo to leave Manchester United. And whether you think Rio Ferdinand's important or not, he does have influence. And this is just more and more noise talking about Kobbie leaving Manchester United. Rio doesn't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, Kobbie Mainoo might get into the side and might start getting game time. You just don't know. But for Rio Ferdinand to come out, I mean, Scholes doesn't do punditry anymore. Nicky Butt is really just doing his own thing and podcasting. And it's great to listen to them both. Fantastic, in fact. And I love it. So I'm listening to them two talking about Kobbie Mainoo. I feel like they could probably go in on it a little bit more than what Rio can. I think Rio, being one of the mainstream pundits and out there on every single big game day, TNT, Champions League and all of this, I think Manchester United need to be careful in who they allow to get back into Man United, to be honest, and the access that he gets. Because you really can't afford for big-time players like Rio Ferdinand to be coming out and saying that Kobbie Mainoo needs to leave Manchester United for game time. If I'm Kobbie Mainoo, in fact, just so I'm not misquoted or anything on this, and you tell me what you think in terms of what Rio said here. How do you take this? But Rio has said, when it comes to Kobbie Mainoo, did you hear the reaction of the fans when Kobbie Mainoo came on the pitch? Great show of support. I saw Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes talking about it on their podcast, and they totally agree with. I totally agree with them. If I think about it and I put myself in Kobbie Mainoo's position, I'm out of there. I've got to go. That for me is Rio Ferdinand saying that Kobbie Mainoo should leave. He's tried to get around it by saying, if I put myself in Kobbie's shoes, let's put myself in Kobbie's shoes. Let's not forget, Rio, like, this is Man United. For God's sake, mate, how many players didn't get into the team when you were playing that were kicked out as well? So I understand that they've got to make these outlandish sort of comments and get clips and all of that. It's the social media game. I know everybody does it. But this is probably going to be the biggest one in terms of Kobbie and who really influences him. I think Rio Ferdinand's got a big pull with a lot of the younger Man United players, a lot of the younger generation still, I feel. And he's got a popular podcast there. He's a big name. And I think this isn't helping United at all. I don't. And it's definitely going to push Kobbie Mainoo out of the door of Manchester United rather than maybe just waiting it out and seeing if he does get another chance. I've seen this season so far, and the writing on the wall is that Kobbie's done. He's not getting into the team. I get it. We've talked about that as well, haven't we? and it doesn't look good. Even I'll say that. But you never know. You never know. And what you don't need is people coming in and saying leave. Big names coming in and saying leave Manchester United. You don't. Ruben Amorim in relationship with Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, Laurie Whitwell was talking this week as well. I think he said there is not a great relationship between the two. That's from what he knows and who he's spoken to. I don't know if that's a definite or not. So you would say that Kobbie does have to leave Manchester United. And people trying to soften up the Kobbie Mainoo departure with a loan just don't get it, I don't think. And this is only my opinion. If Kobbie leaves on loan, he never returns to Manchester United. Because I don't think Ruben's going to be sacked this season. I think United will do enough to always be in the mix. And I think we will get European football. Might not be Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, anything like that. I think Ruben keeps his job at United because United will be in a better position next season if we are in any form of Europe because of the gate receipts and the money that will come in from it. But again, if he leaves on loan now, then and this is probably me being a bit of a dinosaur, a bit of an older fan, and I'll admit this. I think it's like you're at Manchester United, mate. There should be no guarantees that you get in the side. I understand the unfairness, the debate with Bruno and everything like that, but you're at Man United. There should be never a guarantee that you're going to get into that Man United starting 11. And at the moment, you're going through a bad spell. Players have them. Lots of players have been left out for weeks and months on end at football clubs, and then all of a sudden they're back in. Something changes. But if you leave on loan, you're not really doing yourself to the Manchester United fans. You're not really doing yourself to the ownership of Manchester United. You're ditching because you're not playing. And that would make people look at you and say, well, you're clearly not doing enough in training or something like that. And that debate will then start. So I don't think Kobbie Mainoo should leave. I think he should accept that he's at Manchester United and he needs to fight for his place. I know most people will come back on that and say, well, this is not the old Man United, Adam. And there is definitely no argument there because there is crapper players in front of him. Well, he's not better than Casemiro and he's not better than Bruno at the moment. Man United haven't got European football. It's a weird season. It's crazy circumstances. And I think he just has to accept it and move forward. The problem Kobbie's got and the problem that he's got is the agent and the big wages that he wants. So, yeah, let's see. Let's see how it develops. Don't want to get into it too much. It was more about Rio coming in and having his say, to be honest. And that, I think, is a big issue for Manchester United. Let's get some comments in quickly on this, on the Rio Ferdinand side of things. I honestly think the three centre-backs and the unsuitable wing-backs are more of an issue now for the team shape, but Kobbie will likely be used as a sub forever. In the summer, he will. The only way Kobbie Mainoo survives at Man United is if he sticks to it and takes an opportunity if someone gets injured. There's no guarantee of that, so in his position, maybe he does have to move on if he wants to just play football. I just don't see a way out of it for him. I love Kobbie, but this useless manager won't play him. So why shouldn't they tell him to leave? Because he could all of a sudden get his place back in Man United's side. And if he loves Manchester United, he shouldn't be leaving. If Kobbie Mainoo actually thinks that he is going on loan and coming back and he's got a better chance, then he's being badly advised. Everybody knows United are about to buy 2 or 3 midfielders that are clearly going to be ahead of Kobbie Mainoo, no matter who the manager is. So, you see where I'm going with it. Don't leave. Don't leave now if you think that you are going to have a chance at Man United. If you want to leave Man United, leave permanently. I'm bringing this up in the loan side of the argument, so I should have made that clear. Kobbie to leave on loan is just as good as saying goodbye, you're done at Manchester United, as being sold permanently in January. He's not going to come back. I will play. I couldn't stay. I wouldn't leave. They treat him bad, and that's another talent wasted by United. Yep. But if United it is a question I want to just put out there. Just to, and I'm not picking sides here at all. I understand both sides of the Kobbie Mainoo argument. If Man United get Champions League football with the team that we're playing with this season, what are people going to say about Kobbie Mainoo then? Just putting it out there, because we've done it with him not featuring in starting lineups. I know it's a long shot, and I don't think United will get Champions League unless we invest in January. I've always said that. I'm always open to being completely proved wrong, and in a good way like that, all day long. But if United do make Champions League football, it's an if and a but, obviously. Are we going to have changed our minds? This is the thing. I think you cannot argue if United make Champions League football and Kobbie hasn't featured a lot, then Ruben got it right, didn't he? Because he got United back in the Champions League. But then are people still going to say, wasted talent, we didn't give him a right chance? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we can only judge on what we've read and what we see and what people are talking about. Everyone's got an opinion on it, and I don't know how it's going to pan out. But I do think there is an opportunity coming up for Kobbie Mainoo. And I think if he takes advantage of this the next few weeks, then I think the situation could change again and Kobbie might have a future at Manchester United. If Ruben changes all of a sudden, like he said, like he alluded to and said he might, then Kobbie might actually have a place at United. I think his future, I can't say his future is better at United, no. Because I think if he does move, he will get more game time. And here and now, a move probably looks like the better thing to do. But I just don't want him saying, like, I love Man United and I'm making a loan move and I don't want it to be a permanent one because I love United. That's bullshit. If you make a loan move, you're gone. It's as simple as that. You're finished. And that's because of what's been said. Not because I've got a problem with him being loaned out and coming back. There's no issue at all with that. But I think we all have to accept that he's not going to get in the team in the summer either. So I just don't want anyone to like cover it up and say he's still a United fan. He's doing a loan move and coming back. Really? Come on. Let's be real about it. Anyway, Manchester United prospects. Again, JJ Gabriel last night, the youngest player to play in the FA Youth Cup for Manchester United ever. The youngest player ever to score for Manchester United, also in an FA Youth Cup game with that win over Peterborough last night. 1-0, scored the winning goal in the first half. Fantastic finish, by the way. 15 years old, 2 months, was the exact number that was put up because of that record-breaking appearance last night for Manchester United's under-18s. And is, again, just going from strength to strength to strength. And this is going to be a real problem for Manchester United in the future in trying to keep hold of him. It's a good problem to have, obviously, because you've got an absolute talent there. You really have. And he is obviously next level because he's playing 4 years leading up on where he should be right now and battering everybody. At like 11 goals, I think, in 11 this season or something like that. He's on around that mark. And that's a 15-year-old kid who's still in high school. He's absolutely staggering. And again, that Brighton game, FA Cup, will they? I don't know. That is the only game that he is available for or can play in, because he isn't old enough to play in the Premier League. He wasn't 15 by a certain date, so he can't officially play in the Premier League this season. He can, however, play in the FA Cup. Will United be tempted into putting him on the bench against Brighton? We will see. I don't know. I don't know on that one. That fixture hasn't been announced yet in terms of what day it's going to be on, so we'll keep an eye on that one, obviously, because I think United are just going to be moved around in the FA Cup just to suit TV broadcast again. I'm only bringing it up because we've got so many 8 o'clock fixtures at the moment, and it's destroying us. It really is, as fans anyway. It's a pain in the ass, but we'll see what happens on that. But JJ Gabriel again last night. I'm sure you all had the chance to watch the game. Hopefully you did. It's going to be an interesting couple of years for him. Also, maybe Jimmy Thwaites as well, who was a star last night for Manchester United in that performance again. I said go watch him. He just controls football matches. He is another one, I think, who is very close. And we reported on one story yesterday being Jimmy Thwaites might get some game time or break into the matchday squad this season. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think we're going to see that. Lacey is close and might get an opportunity for obvious reasons with AFCON, but it's whether or not Manchester United sell Manuel Ugarte again. And going back to that top story, if United sell him in January, is Jimmy Thwaites an adequate squad fill-in for Casemiro? It's a bit of an ask, isn't it? And I would like him to have had another year's development personally. But if you're good enough, you're old enough, and the old saying comes in again, doesn't it? And that would definitely be something. If he jumped into the Man United squad, maybe even made a couple of appearances for Manchester United, Jimmy Thwaites, then I think this Man United fan base would definitely change its tune with the academy and that type of stance in terms of United not really giving academy a chance. It's a tough one to call that. But again, you've seen the quality of him last night at that level. Obviously, you've still got the under-21 sort of level to get through yet as well if you wanted to develop him even more or send him out on loan, like Harry Amass at the moment over at Sheffield Wednesday. It's an interesting one where we go, because if we're going to buy midfielders in the summer, then Jimmy's got a chance, because Ugarte, Casemiro, and obviously Kobbie Mainoo are going to be out of the football club. So if we buy two, we're going to at least need somebody to step forward. You've got Orozco who's coming in as well, Kone, Jimmy Thwaites, maybe two big signings for Manchester United, and then maybe academy players stepping in as well. Nico says that JJ Gabriel doesn't like Amorim. I think he will leave us for Barcelona to join Rashford. Completely wrong, Nico. His dad loves Ruben Amorim, and JJ Gabriel loves Ruben Amorim as well. That is completely wrong, my friend. Sorry, I've heard that firsthand, so I know that isn't true, mate. Also, I fully believe Amorim's treatment of Mainoo is going to make our academy talents want to leave, especially if in JJ Gabriel case, when you see Barca wanting him. But, well, this is the thing and the decision that United have to make. JJ Gabriel's got a couple of years before he comes through. He could actually feature for Man United's first team next season in the Premier League. If that happens, I could see United getting JJ Gabriel signed up to a contract. What you've got to look at here is there's academy players. Yes, they're academy, and you feel like they've wasted their opportunity. Is the academy player good? Comes down, at the end of the day, he's a player. So take the academy side out of it, and you're talking about Patrick Dorgu and Kobbie Mainoo here. One was bought in, and one was an academy player. Are they good enough for Man United's starting 11 right now? The answer, I think you know the answer. So we can talk about Manchester United and use it as a battering stick on INEOS if you want and the club at the moment. But are them players good enough for Man United? That's the question. Are they good enough? Have they done enough? No, they haven't. Like every other player. Just because he's got that academy tag doesn't mean he gets preferential treatment over everybody else. They have to be good enough. They have to be good enough. And there's a lot of academy players that come through that just aren't good enough for Manchester United. And there has to be an acceptance, surely, that if they're not, then they're moved on, sold on. And that's that. They can do all they want in the academy. And don't get me wrong, Kobbie Mainoo has proved that in games he is an absolute baller. And I've just made a case for him not to leave, because I think there's still hope for him at Manchester United if he wants to battle it out over this next few months. That's all I've got hope-wise for him, because I do see the bigger picture and it not looking like it's not looking good for Kobbie on that side of things either, because of the players that are coming in. But this is I think where he needs to make up his mind and say, is the grass greener? Can I get in this Man United side? Can I do more to get in this Man United side? Because there is proof that has happened before with the likes of Casemiro. And if Man United sell Ugarte and move Casemiro on, Bruno Fernandes isn't going to last too much longer. Kobbie Mainoo has to look at the next 2 years at United and say, are my chances going to be better? Well, yes, is the answer to that, because of the players that are leaving. But then again, obviously, there's other players coming in. Is he willing to fight? It's this is why I said if he loans out now, then that's him giving up basically, and he's gone. That's where I'm at with it, and I think that's the reality of it as well. More news bringing you up. By the way, everybody, please give the video a like as well if you haven't already. Thank you so much for everyone that has done. In terms of other news, Manchester United in a potential Mark Guehi alternative if we don't get Mark Guehi. David Affengruber, that is a great name, isn't it? Affengruber, he is the Elche centre-back right now. Austrian centre-back that Manchester United are looking at. His contract ends at the end of next season, and they have got no option to extend it either. And an opportunity of a £25 million purchase for another young 24-year-old centre-back with first-team experience could be on the cards for Manchester United. Just another name that has been brought up amongst all of the transfer speculation and potential signings. Manchester United will look to strengthen centre-back again in the summer. What that tells us about our current players, well, you can discuss that as well, because that, for me, tells me that they're looking past Harry Maguire. He will be released. What's going to happen with Luke Shaw? Licha Martinez. I think Licha will probably get another deal. I don't know about Luke Shaw, though. And again, Manchester United future planning here, because we're about to lose two of our long-standing serving centre-backs in Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire. So it's good that we are actually looking at other options and looking to cover that area, because we are going to be left short definitely at the end of next summer anyway. Not the summer coming up, the summer after the 26-27 season. United are going to be left short, I think, then. So yep, another name, and obviously United doing all of their work behind the scenes, looking at the next couple of transfer windows, and it's a definite interest anyway. See what else we've got here as well in the chat. Let's go and run through a few of these. I can understand the points about the academy tag, but it was Amorim who said Mainu was training well and deserves to play. So Amorim kind of is that condescending? Is that supposed to say there himself by saying that? So yeah, Ruben dropped himself in it there, Johnny, a little bit. But are you going to start Kobe ahead of Bruno? It's a simple question. You're not going to. Whether you like Bruno or not, Kobbie Mainoo's not better than Bruno Fernandes. In any conversation, in anyone's podcast or anything like that, Kobbie is never going to get ahead of Bruno Fernandes. And Ruben went out and bought 10s this summer. So really, he has said to Kobbie Mainoo in the summer, you are going to be a squad player for Manchester United. And to be honest, a teenager coming through from the academy being told that he's a squad player should be the way that it is anyway. It's just that Ten Hag desperately brought Kobbie Mainoo through to Manchester United squad because he had no other options, that he's got a taste for the limelight, and he is now seeing himself as a first-team player rather than an academy squad player. And I can understand that as well, because Kobbie did have some good performances in that Man United side. He did. Thanks for the update, Adam and Kaz and the family. Have a lovely day. Bye for now. Good day in Germany there, Gary, mates. Not doing business in January is down to poor management of good opportunity to give the squad a boost. Who would you bring in, Daz? We've got to have names on that. It's all right calling it out, buddy, but we need to know who comes in. If the players are not available, you can't get them. That's the thing. It's like, if a club's not selling, then there's nothing you can do. Nothing at all that you can do to get that player. If they're not willing to accept any price, then how do we get the right player in? Any player behind the captain position has this issue. It's the way hierarchy works. I'm surprised Kobbie doesn't understand that, says Greg. Bruno is playing out of position and taking other players' position as his right on that position. Come on, mate. It's Sesko, you cannot really be going in on Bruno. It's not his fault. He plays the way he plays. It's down to Ruben Amorim to try and nurture that and take advantage of that. This isn't a time to hate on Bruno because of Kobbie's situation. This is what the club have backed Ruben with. And Cobby needs to know where his place is in this side. And unfortunately, he doesn't think that he's got a chance. Look, we might not know of anything that's going on behind the scenes. It could be a lot worse than what we know. And Cobby's got every right to leave Man United. It's a lose-lose debate with Cobby Mainoo. It always has been. To be honest, the ideal world with Bruno in the 10, I'd go get a Belieber or Anderson to partner Mainoo. The Sesko signing becomes more baffling to me. Well, not really, because United needed a striker, Johnny, and he is a potential future striker. Give the kid a chance, I think, is what we're saying here. He's been in the club a few months and already being absolutely slaughtered. We're talking about Xerxes and Agati here 2 years in and not doing enough. Let's at least give Sesko his first season, see where we're at the end of it. And then by 2 years, will United be talking about Sesko the same way? We might well be. We might well be. I can't stand Bruno playing there, but this is Amorim's issue, not Bruno's. Even I admit that, says Carl. So we wait 3 summer transfers to get the players we need. It's not good enough from INEOS. Who do you buy, though? Again, it's all right calling them out, but who do you buy? We don't wait 3 transfer windows. We wait till the summer to get the right players in. It's all right calling them out, but if you haven't got anyone who United could come and actually buy in January, then the argument is dead. Everyone says it. Why are we not buying anyone? We need to buy anyone. We need to back Ruben Amorim. We need to get players in. I said at the top of the show, I just don't know who's available. And United are not going to go and get just anybody. It's not going to work. That's failed us before. Wow. The show has gone on. Thank you, everybody. That is us all wrapped up and done. You're completely up to date with all the news. I'll be back later if there is any updates. And again, later on this evening, everybody, thank you so much. Mods, fantastic job again. Thank you, everybody, for all of your likes. Please get them in again before the show finishes. Let's get that over 200. And I'll see you all later on, everybody. Have a